In this lesson, we're going to talk about important files to After Effects and introduce the application environment. The first and easiest mode with which you can import a footage or file to After Effects is double-clicking on Project panel. Then you can import any footage you want. For example, I import this photo to After Effects. There are some other ways to import footage or photos to After Effects. For example, you can right-click on Project panel and from Import menu, select File, or from the File tab and Import menu, select File, or you can use hotkeys Ctrl and I. As I said before, in order to edit this footage, we should put it into a composition. We can do this in a couple of ways. First, we should make new composition and we can determine whatever size we like. Then after the composition was created, we can put our logo anywhere in the preview panel. Well, we can also put that in timeline panel or under the previous layer, or even you can put it here determining time in the right part of the timeline in order to determine where the layer appears. For example, first this one and then the other one. The only difference is when you drag it to timeline, it exactly is placed in the center of composition. If you want your composition to be exactly the same size as your footage, you can drag it onto this icon. Then the composition will be the same name and size with your footage. Let me import a video. The difference between the photos and videos in After Effects is that photos do not have time, but the videos do. And this little black triangle represents the starting point of this video. And this one represents the end point of the video. But photos do not have these triangles and they are somehow unlimited, meaning that it is one frame and we can increase or decrease the time of its frame. But the video doesn't have such capabilities and you cannot stretch its time more than the defined, unless you do something that we will discuss about them in the next chapters. You were introduced to the panels, project panel, which we put our footages and compositions and any source we import to the software in it. And in timeline panel, we can see the compositions we have created and all the layers in those comps. In preview panel, we can see the preview of our project in any size. And also we can see the frame that our time indicator is on. These three, project, preview, and the timeline panel, are our main panels that often we need them. And in Window tab, we can find them. Composition is preview panel. Here, we have project panel and timeline here. These are checked. These main and sub panels are separated by these lines. Here we have effect control panel with which you can control the effects you have applied to the layers. We will discuss about the effects in the next lessons. You should just know that this panel is used for controlling layer effect. We have main panels, project, preview, timeline, and effect controls. And there can be some other panels too, just like what you see in timeline panel. Also, in composition panel, you can have footage. Here you go. If you double click on the layer, you can see the preview of the layer. You see, footage, layer, and composition.
And we can see the preview of every three of them in this panel.
In Project Panel, we can classify the footages and files that we have. For example, I create a folder named Picture and drag my photos in it. Let me close this. And here, I create a new folder named Composition and I drag my composition in it. And another folder named Video that I drag my videos and movies in it. You can easily classify all the footage and files you have in Project Panel in this way and work with them. Subpanels are here and we can simply indicate them. Info panel usually shows the color coordinates of the point our mouse is on. That R represents the red, G represents the green, and B represents the blue. And also we have alpha. And X and Y shows the position coordinates of that point in the composition which our mouse is on. In audio panel, our video or anything we are creating, if it has audio, we can see the audio equalizer in it. And you can control or increase or decrease the sound, and you can control it easily from this panel and some other panels that we don't have enough time to discuss about them.
The most important of all is Preview panel, which is not still available in this list.
If you want a panel and you can't find it here, you should go to the video panel and check it. Here, you can see the preview panel is not checked, so we don't have that in After Effects environment. I check it in order to open its panel. Preview panel is an important panel we can use for previewing the project we have created. Preview panel has a couple of types. Usually, you can use this button for previewing. Stop it, go a frame forward and go a frame backward. Go to the last frame, go to the first frame.
In Shortcut, you can define 7 shortcuts to indicate in what way these shortcuts can preview your project.
By a spacebar, you can define it to preview audio and video at the same time. And also you can define whether to show the bounding box in the preview or not. If you enable this, you can see the bounding box in previewing. Now, if I preview that by a space without enabling that, they'll be hidden. But if I turn this on while previewing, these ones will be shown too. We don't discuss it too much. For example, in the spacebar, you can define not to have any skip. But in Shift spacebar, you can define it to preview every other frames or the next bot to. I press Shift space. Now, if I zoom here, you see that it renders the next 2 frames. This and this results in a quicker preview. Therefore, our workspace will increase. It has different settings you can set it. For example, full screen. When you choose Shift spacebar, it becomes full screen. Now I press the Shift spacebar and there you go. Our frame panel changed to full screen. There are some other settings here that if you try them, you can make your preview quicker and better in After Effects. Another important panel, which is so useful, is the effect and preset panel. We have some menus in it. The first one is presets, animation preset, and you can also define it yourself. And we will teach you in the next lessons how to define a preset. We have some menus in it, and we have another menu consists of lots of effects in After Effects. These are really useful. Here's the search bar. You can easily search whatever effect you want and it will be shown up. For example, now I search blur and different blur effects are shown here.